The mistake paradox. In our last episode, we learned how trying too hard to fall asleep can backfire and keep us awake. But that wasn't the only time life rewards us with the opposite of what we want. Today, we dive into a paradox that hits home for perfectionists and procrastinators alike. The more you fear making mistakes, the more mistakes you make. Think about it. How many times have you messed up precisely because you were so worried about messing up? Welcome back to Paradox Stories, where we unravel the hidden contradictions that shape our everyday choices. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why an excessive fear of error can lead to, well, more errors, and how to break free of the vicious cycle. Most of us have been taught that to avoid mistakes, we need to be hyper-vigilant, double-check, triple-check, maybe even quadruple-check. But ironically, that constant tension often creates the very lapses we dread. Think about an athlete who chokes under pressure precisely because they're terrified of failing in front of the crowd, or a student who forgets everything during a test because they're consumed by anxiety about getting the answers wrong. Psychologists refer to this as performance anxiety, which can overlap with perfectionism. But as we'll discover, the root cause is often a misdirected focus. When we obsess over not failing, our minds fixate on potential pitfalls instead of the process at hand. And as the Stoics remind us, sometimes focusing too intensely on what we can't control, like the possibility of an error, can trip us up more than the error itself. To see how this plays out, let's meet Zoe, a talented graphic designer who prides herself on flawless work. She's recently landed a dream gig, creating a new logo for a high-profile client. The stakes are huge, and she knows that even a single misstep could set her project back. Determined to avoid mistakes at all costs, she goes into overdrive, researching the competition, examining dozens of color palettes, reworking every line, fussing over every pixel. At first, her dedication seems admirable, but soon she spirals into an endless loop of second-guessing. She can't finalize any design because she worries it might not be perfect. What if the client hates the color scheme? What if the typography looks amateurish? The more she frets, the more time she burns, and deadlines loom ever closer. Ironically, she starts making small oversights in her stress, accidentally deleting files, naming assets incorrectly, even forgetting to save her work. Each slip-up amplifies her fear of messing up again. One late night, fueled by too much coffee and not enough sleep, Zoe finally sends a draft to the client. Within minutes, she realizes she attached the wrong file, a partially edited version riddled with placeholder text. Panicked, she sends a frantic email apologizing for the error and asking them to disregard her previous submission. In that moment, she confronts a painful truth. The fear of making mistakes had pushed her straight into making one of the biggest mistakes of all, sending the wrong file to a key client. Stepping away from her desk, Zoe takes a few deep breaths. She recalls reading about how focusing too hard on perfection can blind you to simple, practical steps. She realizes that if she'd relaxed and trusted her skill rather than dwelling on the possibility of errors, she probably would have double-checked the attachment properly. It was her anxiety itself that triggered the very error she was fighting to avoid. This paradox has a strong foothold in both modern psychology and ancient philosophy. Much like our previous topic about sleep, ironic process theory explains that when we fixate on not doing something, such as making a mistake, our brain ironically zeroes in on the possibility of that unwanted action, increasing its likelihood. The fear becomes a mental spotlight. In high-pressure situations, overthinking disrupts our natural flow or automaticity. Rather than performing skillfully, we micromanage every detail, leading to choking under the stress. Athletes, musicians, and public speakers can all fall prey to this phenomenon. The ancient Stoics, such as Seneca, taught that fearing future misfortune often hurts us more than any real event could. Fear is a mental rehearsal of negative outcomes, an emotional tax we pay in advance. Epictetus would say, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In our context, it's not the mistake itself that's our undoing, but the disproportionate fear of making it. This fear hijacks our focus, saps our confidence, and ironically, paves the way for errors. Time and again, we see the same lesson. When you clench too tightly, you lose the agility needed to gracefully navigate challenges. The Stoics believed in practicing excellence, not fixating on the worst-case scenario. By aiming for measured, purposeful effort, rather than faultless performance, we grant ourselves the mental clarity to do our best work. Here are the core lessons from the mistake paradox. Obsessing over being flawless can create tunnel vision. Accept that mistakes happen and learn from them instead of fearing them into existence. Instead of worrying about "will I fail," focus on the steps you can control: preparation, practice, and calm execution. This also aligns with Stoic principles. Concentrate on your own efforts, not on hypothetical disasters. When we do slip up, being harsh on ourselves intensifies fear. A more forgiving approach helps keep your mindset flexible, reducing the spiral of mistakes. A certain level of "what if I mess up" can prompt you to prepare carefully. But once you've prepared, let go of the fear-laden "what ifs" to remain grounded in the moment. Nobody is perfect. Even top professionals in any field acknowledge error as part of the process. Ironically, this acceptance can reduce anxiety and thus reduce mistakes. Take a moment to reflect. In which area of your life do you notice fear of mistakes holding you back or causing more errors? Maybe it's at work, in your creative pursuits, or in your relationships. Consider one small shift you can make, from obsessively avoiding errors to calmly focusing on what's in front of you. Let us know in the comments. Who knows? Your experience might help someone else break the cycle of fear-driven mistakes. Thanks for joining us in this deep dive into the mistake paradox. If you found value in understanding how the fear of error can create the very errors we dread, hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the notification bell to stay tuned for more thought-provoking paradoxes. In our next episode, we'll explore another mind-bender. The more you try to win everyone's approval, the less you end up being liked. It's a paradox at the heart of social dynamics, and might even help you understand how to build genuinely strong connections without people-pleasing. You won't want to miss it. This is Paradox Stories, where we peel back life's hidden contradictions with the help of psychology, Stoic wisdom, and real-life stories. Until next time, may your pursuit be purposeful and your mistakes be teachers, not terrors.